But first, there is an insidious movement in the Australian media to stop you from hearing coverage of The Voice. And it is getting worse and more hostile every single day. Australians are being asked to change the Constitution. But if you ask questions about the ramifications of those changes, professional journalists and supposedly professional newsrooms go on the attack. Accusations of racism and misinformation are being wielded so fast and so casually that the words have lost all meaning. And this week we published a documentary to a dedicated Voice channel about the referendum, highlighting both sides of the argument. And it was greeted with as much insanity as you could expect.
And this is a media company, a global media company whose business model is to promote division and hatred. We know from what Sky's been running on their existing channel that they're promoting lies and creating anxiety and frankly terrifying people. The Murdoch people do not like anyone talking about it, and they basically intimidate other media like the ABC, like the Fairfax publications in Australia. But the reality is this is an organisation that has made a business of creating division and spreading lies.
Well, that was former Prime Minister Malcolm Turnbull talking to taxpayer-funded activist Patricia Karvelas on the ABC. This radio program has become a place where the facts go to die, and that interview was no different. To Turnbull, a former journalist himself, and Karvelas, one of the ABC's highest paid and most celebrated shock jocks, our Voice channel is terrifying, creating anxiety and promoting lies. Why don't you at home make up your own minds? This is the sort of programming we are running on our Voice channel.
The gap between Indigenous and non-Indigenous Australians is stark. Where voices collide, ideas ignite as we move towards an historic referendum. So can The Voice make any difference?
I think it's time to put that control back in the hands of Aboriginal people.
My concern is we're going to be spending $380 million on a referendum.
The decisions are made here when they should be being made by Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people.
And I think it grinds the process of government down to a near halt.
It is one of those things that is nation building.
This referendum has probably been our nation's most divisive.
Very many ways to skin this cat, and this is a really radical and experimental way to do it.
It's a recognition of this extraordinary history.
At the end of the day, it's up to you, the Australian people, to decide.
Our Northern Territory correspondent Matt Cunningham, who reports on the ground in Alice Springs every single day, made that documentary, and it is a balanced and informative piece of journalism. Only an ideologue of the highest order could take an issue with what Cunningham has done. But that didn't stop Turnbull from complaining about our Voice channel to anyone who would listen. Sky News spreading fear and falsehoods on Indigenous voice is an affront to Australian democracy. Murdoch-owned Sky News has launched a 24/7 channel devoted entirely to the debate around the Indigenous voice to Parliament. It is wholly unsurprising that Sky News Australia has overwhelmingly rallied against the voice to Parliament. Sky News has promoted misinformation, just as its sister network Fox News has done in the US. This disregard for truth, fact, and the most basic of journalistic standards must be of concern in any democracy, yet it goes unchecked as the Murdoch empire extends its reach. Well, someone give this man a thesaurus. If I have to listen to Malcolm Turnbull preach about truth and facts one more time, I might just vomit. This is a man who has such little regard for the facts that he didn't even watch the Voice channel before writing that article.
Former Prime Minister Malcolm Turnbull is no fan of Rupert Murdoch's media outlets and is raising what he says are serious concerns with the new channel. And he joins us this morning. Malcolm Turnbull, welcome.
Good morning.
Have you watched Sky News' 24/7 Voice channel yet?
Well, it hasn't really started yet, but it's just getting underway.
And if that isn't ridiculous enough all on its own, how about the fact that Malcolm Turnbull is actually Australia's original no voter? He might bluster and whine about the referendum now, but what really matters in life are your actions, not your hollow promises. In 2017, Malcolm Turnbull was the Prime Minister, and he had the opportunity to embrace the voice. He canned it and published this press release explaining why. Our democracy is built on the foundation of all Australian citizens having equal civic rights, all being able to vote for, stand for and serve in either of the two chambers of our national parliament, the House of Representatives and the Senate. It would inevitably become seen as a third chamber of parliament. The Referendum Council noted the concerns that the proposed body would have insufficient power if its constitutional function was advisory only. What a sad man, attempting to muddy the waters of history by pretending to be the champion of the voice when he, as the most powerful politician in the country, once destroyed it. Well, joining me now is the Australian's media writer, Sophie Ellsworth, and Sky News contributor, James Bolt. Sophie, why don't we start with you? Very keen to get your thoughts on this interesting move by Malcolm Turnbull to attack Sky News for an objective, straight down the line channel about the voice.
Jack, it's really interesting after this interview aired with digesting it all, the fact, as you pointed out, that Mr Turnbull had failed to watch one single minute of the new Voice channel, which has been, at that point, live for more or thereabouts 24 hours. He clearly hasn't watched the content because he would know that there's, there's rallies that are aired, there's press conferences, Marcia Langton appearing at a university event, she was on there. There's lots of different content on there. So I'm not quite sure where he's drawing these conclusions that he's come to. But I think it's important, if he is going to attack Sky, that he gets his facts straight. And also, I thought it was interesting, that interview, that Patricia Karvelas did not question him on his, what you could argue, misinformation, where he has previously labelled the Voice a third chamber of parliament until he did a complete change of heart and is now pro-Voice. So it would have been worthy of her asking that as well. So I think Mr Turnbull actually embarrassed himself through this interview by not having his facts straight before he got behind the microphone.
Yeah, and Sophie raises such a good point, doesn't she, James? I mean, obviously Malcolm Turnbull isn't going to want to highlight the fact that he personally knocked down the Voice in 2017. But journalists, they should know the context. They should be trying to give that to people.
They should. I just got to take one issue with what you two have said. You said that Malcolm Turnbull hasn't done any research. Now, if I can quote from his article in The Guardian, a quick scan of Sky News' recent YouTube videos. I don't know what you two want more from him. That's an incredible amount of... That's the kind of keen eye for detail, the guy that gave us Snowy, the guy that gave us a French substeel. This is what he does. And then you look at the channel, as I do. I gave it a quick scan, in Turnbull's words. And here's some of the voices that are going to be talking. Monique Ryan, that's on today. Zoe Daniel, Thomas Mayo, Kerry O'Brien, Dean Parkin, Anthony Albanese, Noel Pearson. I mean, well, Thomas Mayo might be doing more work for the No campaign than Jacinta Price at this moment, but the point is it's a very balanced channel.
Yeah, a quick scan, Sophie, it almost sounds like maybe cherry picking.
Absolutely, Jack. And I'd suggest to Mr Turnbull perhaps he should watch Matt Cunningham's very good documentary that aired on Sky earlier in the week, looking at all sides of the Voice campaign. And I suggest he actually sit down and watch the 24-hour news channel and perhaps write another piece reflecting on his thoughts then. And I think he hopefully would be able to come to the terms with the reality of what the channel actually is about.